It's recording now.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yay, I
Hello,
can see your
everyone.
faces.
Hello.
So
Hi.
nice to meet everybody. Welcome, welcome. Patrick's in the back, floating. How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
Great.
good. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you all so much for coming onto this chat, and obviously for the, I don't know how many artists, 1 second. And for the artists who are already joining us for the last few crits, I'm gonna do my usual introduction, so bear with me. So I'm very excited to host a crit with you and start interesting discussions on fashion drawing. And for those of you who don't know me and who hasn't been in the previous talks, I'm also an illustrator and a fashion drawing lecturer. So I've always been really passionate about the craft of drawing, and I think for me, the drawing process is such an interesting and personal, journey that a lot of people don't get insights to. So I thought it's something special that needs a light to be shown on it. And this is something Fida brought to the table, and after having a chat with Patrick and having a discussion, is that there's so many talks and panels about fashion design and all the runway shows and things like that, but there isn't a particular talk focused solely on fashion drawing and illustration. And we thought that was a missing part of the industry. So we decided to create a Connie's Crit, where we can actually invite artists to do some artwork and have an esteemed panelist selection to come and critique the artwork. So we've asked our members for Fida to do some illustrations, and in the previous crit, they only had 2 hours to do the illustration, but this is the semi-long version where they had I think it was about 2 days from the Richard Quinn show, which was amazing. And so we've selected a few artists that we would like to showcase today. But before that, I want to introduce our amazing panel. If you can introduce yourselves, that would be amazing. If Richard, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go. Hi, I'm Richard Haynes. I'm an illustrator and an artist. Sometimes people ask me what the difference is between those two, and I'm really not sure, but I like to include them. I live in Brooklyn. It's rainy, it's overcast. It's great to be here. And Connie, thanks for asking me. And Patrick, thanks for always your incredible energy and putting illustration and illustrators together. Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a shared kind of, I love to draw. I just think, it's like, sometimes I was thinking before, do I even to explain why I love to draw, or why illustration is important? It's like food or air. But anyway, I'll stop. I'm sorry. I'm really happy to be here and I see a lot of people whose work I really love, and it's great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We love your drawings too. We love drawing. Richard, do you want to go next?
Yes, hello, I'm the other Richard, Richard Kilroy. I'm based in London. I've been here for about 10, oh my God, 10 or 11 years, something like that. I'm an illustrator. Some people start using the term queer illustrator because it's always men and it's always partially dressed or not even dressed, and then it's veering between that and fashion illustration. I got into it through reading magazines like The Face and Dazed and Confused, and I was always really inspired by people like Judy Verhoeven, and it was a real kind of surprise to me to see illustration used in such a way in the fashion industry, not just necessarily design drawing, and to see it really used in publishing. And it was really exciting. It really kind of gave me the confidence that it is an area of the industry that's legit and there's really amazing people. So that was my kind of awakening when I was a teenager. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was some things I was supposed to say. I think I actually watched a little clip of Maggie Hambling yesterday, who's a very famous fine artist, and she said something like, artists or illustrators, you're trying to if you're obsessed with something, you're trying to capture it and you're trying to make it your own. You're putting it onto a piece of paper and it's yours. It's almost like this kind of, not possessiveness, but it's something you create. It's a cathartic output, and that's why I enjoy drawing. That's why it's kind of an obsessive thing and a passion.
Yeah, I love it. We're all obsessed with drawing.
Mm-hmm.
It's fabulous because our whole panel is like illustrators, so it's going to be a really interesting talk, I think. Scott, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Scott W. Mason, a London-based fashion illustrator, and yeah, I mean, I've been drawing ever since I was young, but then I did veer off. I saw the topic today is photography as well, and I veered off into fashion photography for a degree, and then I realized I can't photograph a shit, so I went back to drawing, and then he's just realized that it's so much easier to draw than photograph as well. To be honest, it's just you have so much more control. Whereas photography, you have so much out, like models, stylists, everything else. So I think I love drawing just because of the control, because I can draw whatever I want to draw. Whatever's in your mind, you can draw. You can't photograph that. So yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, there's no limits, right?
Yeah, completely.
Francesco?
Yeah, hello. I feel like, so this is my second time here. So I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but yeah, it's Francesco.
It's probably a new crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm an illustrator as well. It's been almost 10 years now. And I'm happy to be here also because, yeah, as we said before, so last time people did the sketch in a couple hours, I think. So this time they have a couple of days. So I'm curious to see like the differences maybe. And also like maybe it's worth mentioning, like Scott did, that I'm also trained as a photographer actually.
Oh.
So yeah, so I kind of like leave the two sides of it as well. I think, yeah, maybe Scott is right. It's really like in fashion illustration, you have more control for sure. But I think that, I don't know if it's the same for Scott, but like where I learned in photography, of course, helped me a lot, really training my eye and seeing things differently possibly. So it should help me also as an illustrator.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here. And I think I did message you about the theme, but we wanted to shift the theme of this talk more towards life drawing and the importance of drawing from life, because I know you all draw from life, and how we can, what's the line between fine arts and fashion illustration. So if you can bear that in mind, and we're going to have a look at some of the artist work. So I'm just going to share my screen. Is Caroline here? Not sure.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Hi,
Okay, so
yeah.
we have some of your. Oh,
All right.
sorry, I shared the wrong. There we go. So we have some of your work here. We thought it was fabulous. This one, and let's see. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I wanted to show this one. Yeah. So if you can go through, your process, because you've also made a video of this, which I would love to show afterwards. But tell us a little bit more about your process, because I think you used acetate as well in the back, was it?
Yeah.
Materials.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Caroline. Live in Leeds in the UK. I've just a little bit of background. I teach BA fashion design. I have done for 18 years. So a big part of my job is to teach drawing from life when it allows. Obviously, COVID was pretty different. We weren't allowed models for a few years, but that's all coming back again. So I suppose the drawings that you've picked is how I sort of teach drawing, really. So various methods. This one, it has a collage background, acetate, photography acetate, and just sort of children's, I don't know what they call it, not tissue paper, but just any old pink paper. It was actually from my child's drawing box.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so I just thought, you know, just get a base down, so the base is in white. And I like to paint a lot as well as draw. So
I'm just going to show the video very quickly.
Okay.
Sorry, Zoom stuff. Okay. Which I thought was really nice to see the whole process.
Yeah. So just as quick as possible, you know, this is how I teach. Just quick, get things down with a felt tip, get the shape down, and just I quite often paint with my hands, and I like to get the students to do that because they hate making a mess, and I just love making a mess and getting really involved. I suppose that's why I like drawing, because I just like mess. So it's acrylic paint, bit of oil pastel. I haven't used a palette knife on this one, I don't think, but I do for quickness, really. So yeah, I had the music. There was the music of the show in the background, Connie. I don't know if that kind of helps me work sometimes. Is it not playing? Yeah, so to sort of speed me up really and work with the overall mood of the show, I thought, well, I might as well just sort of have that on in the background as well. And again, when I'm teaching, sometimes I have it quiet, sometimes I have various music on or shows in the background, so it just sort of helps you get in the zone, I suppose. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah. So we would like to get feedback from our hosts. I mean, not our hosts, our panelists. Anybody can go first.
I love starting with the pink paper. I mean, that gives me a lot of ideas. It just changes the context as opposed to being on white paper, and it kind of encourages the spontaneity. And it's great to just see. Also, just, I mean, again, it's the beauty of drawing. Like, no one said that we have to use a pencil or a brush all the time. I think just even using your hands just kind of makes it immediate. So looks great. Love the video.
Thank you. And I think as an artist, I suppose it's my background in women's wear. Really, I'm perhaps a lot of artists are more involved with the face and the portrait. There's a lot of that I'm really brilliant artists out there, but I suppose I'm more about the clothing. I'm about the silhouette, you know, the pattern cutting, the actual sort of styling of it all. So I was sort of all over this show in one way because the faces were covered by the hats. So I just thought, yeah, I'll do this one. You know, I can sort of really get to grips with a bit of movement as well. I love drawing movement, and I'm very interested in colour and fabric and print and knit and texture and things. So that's really, I suppose, why I enjoy drawing.
Sorry, it went away. I don't know what happened.
Do you think you can tell when there's kind of, I always think there's two channels of people who approach fashion illustration. There's the ones who studied it as fashion design, and you see an awareness for the body and form and fabric and movement and everything else. I'm not saying that people who've gone through other avenues don't, but I didn't. I actually studied in Leeds as well, so I was in Leeds.
Fiscom, I've looked you up.
Yeah. So I was very much a graphic student. Funnily enough, like Scott and Francesco said, it's like I actually was doing a lot of photography, and I was told my photography was better than my illustration, but I didn't have the interest in it. As a tutor now, I would have said the same thing. But anyway, I would agree exactly that there's a lot of people who focus on face, and I'm sure I did for a lot. But you just see different approaches, and you know, looking at yours, and I just had a quick look at your Instagram as well. You know, you can see that awareness as a designer. You can see that approach to imagery and image making. You can always see that kind of. Well, I feel like I can see that anyway. That's lovely, and I love the colours as well, the spontaneity of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've sort of reliving my career in illustration, because when I left my BA, that's all I wanted to do, move to London, which I did, and draw and make a living from that. But it was, you know, it was so difficult. So in the end, I did go back. I did my MA at the RCA, and I did go back to women's wear design. But the drawing and the illustration is always my first love. And then, you know, life takes over. I had children, you know, didn't draw for a long time. Always taught drawing, but I've only been sort of back into it for a year, and I'm enjoying every minute because I suppose I'll never be rich, but I've got a little bit more security with the teaching job, and, you know, I have a house and things. So it's a very different time. When I was 21 and it's all I wanted to do, I was just so skint living in London. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have to end this, because the sort of work I was getting was makeup, you know, like how to put your eyeshadow on and how to do your lips. And
do you feel like your security has given you opportunity to be a bit more explorative with your work?
Yeah, I think it took a while. I think it took a while to sort of get back into it and have the confidence to get an Instagram account, all of that, get on board with it. You know, although I've drawn for a long time, it's quite a big thing to say, right, I'm putting myself out there again as an artist or an illustrator. So
that's great that you're putting yourself out there. Scott, did you want to have a little?
Yeah, sure. I love there's this movement, like a flick of the hand that you've got, as if, you know, she's kind of walking, and the way you've captured that is really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Because I fail in fashion illustration in the sense that I've never drawn this pose. Like, I've tried for 10 years to draw a walking pose and I just could never do it. So that's why I draw people laying down, upside down, whatever. I draw anything I can that's not this pose, because I just can't do it. So anyone that can do it, I'm like, wow, well done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I would say it's a beautiful movement. It's this kind of subtle S shape. And I love how spontaneous you were with it. Like, you didn't hold back. And a lot of people are very rigid with how they apply color and stuff like that. And you just went at it. You didn't care. And I think that gestural approach is amazing. I would say, I don't mean, like, the only thing is slightly overworked maybe in the jacket areas. Just because I feel like it gets a little bit muddled, and maybe some bigger brush strokes would have been nicer to get the eye to dart around a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
it's all kind of.
Yeah, totally agree. And that arm on the right hand side, I'd just like to do like the big white or something. It's just wrong. But
No, yeah, that's good though.
I'm looking at it now on the screen thinking no.
But no, I mean, it's a really great piece of work, and I love the experimentation. So yeah, never stop experimenting. I mean, it just looks great. Yeah.
And Francesco?
Yeah. So, no, I'm in a minute. So yeah, a really lovely piece. I love it. I'm quite stuck to the pink paper as well, also because personally, I rarely use color paper for my work because I find it quite hard to handle. So yeah, it's very charming. Like, how you use the pink paper and everything. It's very well balanced for me, and it really works. Really lovely.
Oh, all right, Caroline. Thank you for all your feedback and wonderful work. So our next artist is, let me stop sharing my screen. Flamini Rossi, are you here? I'm gonna start sharing my, so maybe she's not here. We thought this was very beautiful because of the almost like a retro background, like a tablecloth or something like that. So, I mean, she's probably not here, but we can critique her artwork. So whoever wants to go first, I'll give you a minute to observe.
I will say not so much about this work in particular, but I do think, you know, there's a few things at play in terms of, you know, are you in love with the designer that you're drawing? Is it a collection that you would naturally gravitate towards? I know that there's certain collections that I would just look at and go, oh my God, I wouldn't. And then there's some that I'm so excited to draw, you know.
Yeah.
You asked about one of the benefits of illustration over photography is the fact that it's your personal statement, it's your viewpoint. I think I did have a point with that. It's you can kind of see when someone's into what they're doing, and it's kind of hard to critique just one piece of work. And I feel like I always need to see a body of work if I'm working with
Cool.
students. It's
I will
really hard.
share her other one as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because you know, sometimes like I would die if somebody was just picking out one single drawing of mine and basing all of it on that. And I think, no, look at this one, look at this one. So
Can you see both of these?
yes. Yeah, it's great to see all these different frames happening and this kind of graphic composition.
Yeah.
I mean, I love what Richard said. When I saw the collection, I saw it on Vogue Runway, and my first impression is, I mean, Richard Quinn really goes there with proportion, and it's so interesting because faces have almost disappeared. Like the faces are just barely there, and then there's some collections that are just like, they're almost like drawings in themselves. Like his sense of proportion is so dramatic.
Yeah.
Like the faces are teeny, the hats are huge, the waists are teeny, the coats go back out, the scale of the prints. I mean, it's actually really brilliant. So it would be interesting to see like more play of the proportion.
You mean the exaggerations of the proportions?
Yeah, the exaggeration, and just I mean, I start to see it in the hat, the blue and black hat on the left.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm kind of craving, I would love to see more, because the hat is kind of going there. I'd love to see more of the figure to kind of balance the hat.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's
that's right. I
fun.
mean,
Sorry.
is that Richard?
No, go on. Sorry.
No, I think I'm done now. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's the second time we've seen collage used. I think the solid pink is more successful, but yeah, I'd love to see more. I agree with Richard about just kind of seeing more of the work.
I think, yeah, it's speaking from experience, when you have a style like, what was the name again? Sorry.
Flamini Rossi.
Flamini. I think when you've got a style that's fairly representational, it's really hard to kind of put your stamp on it. And I think what she's doing here with the frames and the negative space, I think that helps to lift it other than being like a direct representation, because that's something I got stuck into for years and it's very hard to get out of. And then it's, you know, where do you bring back the individuality with that? And I think she's definitely tackling that. I don't think it's like just a straightforward photo translation. I think there's definitely a nice kind of brushstroke happening. And I think, yeah, it's, if you were to see a few of these in succession, I think it would really give it impact as well. But I like the way the black is used on the left one for kind of, it's not just like an outline, is it? It's kind of almost feels like negative space in between sections. There's some kind of technique happening there, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Francesco or Scott, any input?
Yeah, so I think I do prefer the pink one, actually. I think it's more well balanced. I do like the face, well, at least what we see of it. And like the other one, I feel, I don't know, like maybe there's something lacking. Like it kind of needs a focal point to it. So yeah, I think I definitely prefer the pink one.
Yeah.
But I know actually Flamina's work, and it's really beautiful and interesting. So I can see bits of it here, of course.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I prefer the one on the left. Because I think the one on the right is just, I don't feel like the pink is strong enough. I feel like the background is overpowering the pink. I think it needs to be a more solid color. But I love the one on the left. Like you think she's looking down, and then your eye gets into her eyes, and you're like, oh, she's actually peering out at you. I really like. I don't know if the background is just something for Instagram or if it was something that she intended to use. I think it might just be she's popped it on a table and taken a photo. So I'm not sure it's part of the work. I don't know. But yeah, I think the one on the left is like really beautiful. I do think maybe if you continued it on and you had her hips and you kind of let that body go down a bit more, it probably would be stronger. But yeah, beautiful work.
Yeah, thank you. I think you guys have brought on a really interesting topic, is how, like you say, Richard, like you want to see or show the progression of a series or like the work. And, you know, as a fellow artist or illustrator, I think the biggest question we all have is, how do you develop your style and how do you become so distinct? And I'm Richard, I know you worked for a long time and you had the really rendered faces, like beautiful. And then you told me you just wanted to get rid of all of that. And you started doing these amazing color blocked figures that are so different from your previous work. And I don't know how that transition was for you.
Very satisfying, I think. A big break where a big period where I was just so done with it. And I am starting to work with subjects again and photographing them and drawing and sketching. But at the same time, I feel like the one thing that hindered me when I was doing that kind of really representational stuff was booking a model, getting the clothes, because I wanted the setup. I hated being given a photo and saying, draw it, because the way my style was, it kind of put these limitations on me, which, you know, is my own job to get out of. And then, yeah, it's just progression. I was just playing around, doodling, and I thought, okay, I kind of felt less importance on maintaining what people expect of your work. I think that's one of the biggest shadows that lurks over you when you've got commissioned work, is people will only commission you based on what they know, and trying to put forward a new proposition for your work and just to have fun with it and take it back to something else and see where it goes can be quite hard and take some time. I know many illustrators who've gone through that process and trying to establish that you aren't just capable of one thing. And there's nothing wrong with, well, I don't know. I mean, we're all artists and we all progress at different times, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm rambling.
It's okay. What do you guys think about it for the panelists? Because I think that's a big question that everybody gets or asks is, how do I find my style? How do I progress my style? Am I doing it right? Or, you know, you have all these questions, and it'll be interesting to hear your personal experiences. Anybody want to go?
Richard, I'm going to put that question to you.
Yeah, I was
we
going
want
to
to
put that one
know. We
here.
want to know.
Thanks, Richard. Actually, I have one more thing to say about this. I was looking at these drawings. I would love to see the artist. I mean, I think it's really interesting to use the floral, and Richard Quinn used these huge florals. I would love to see her paint florals and then use them as collage, as opposed to like a found object. I mean, anyway, so that's, yeah, I mean, I love what Richard said, and I love watching Richard's work. It's almost like sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to, you know, to make a mistake or to take a chance or to fuck up. And I think that's really important. Oh gosh, what's the question?
The question was, how did you progress to find your style? Because you have a very distinct style, and you know, did you change that style over years, or was it dramatic? Or
it's really interesting. I mean, I think everyone here, I mean, I've drawn since I could hold a pencil, and I moved to New York many years ago thinking I was going to be like a fabulous illustrator, which is not the reason why. And I would get these small commissions and the drawings were terrible. They were horrible. And I called it my kind of people-pleasing period, because I was really doing things. I was making these drawings because I wanted people to like pay attention to me or love me or think I was cool. And so there was really no reason to have them done. There was no real person there. And so I really had to stop drawing for a long time, for years. And then when I started doing it again, yeah, it was just like when I started, it was like, all right, I'm really doing this just for myself. Like I really need to just make that mark on the paper. And that's when things really started to change, when I just stopped trying to get approval, and also just really felt the urge, which I heard other people here talk about, to like make a mark and to kind of, you know, leave like an indication of what I'm seeing, and to give myself permission to really make mistakes and take risks. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And it's always changing. It's always evolving. I mean, I'm teaching now, and I think a lot of people, I mean, I remember too, like I'd want to have a style before I really understood the body. And I think it's really important to understand where things go, and then a style can evolve from that.
Yeah, having a base foundation that can uphold any style, basically.
Right.
Oh,
Right,
it's interesting. Thank you. Francesco or Scott, do you have any input on that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll it's a rare case. I don't think much. I never thought of much about style personally. Maybe in a quite simple way. Maybe a simple person. I don't know. And also, like I've been told to Patrick this sometimes. I don't feel like I have a very distinctive style, but I know like there's my eye on my work that can be different from others. But I always gave much importance just to practicing and practicing and practicing and drawing. And I think it's the way, like, if possible, like if you want to find your style, just practice and drawing. I think less thinking, yeah, definitely less thinking and more.
Let's think, more do.
Yeah, that was honestly for me, and I still do that. And you know, when I have a look at my work from 10 years ago, of course, I can see a difference, but it's no thought at all. It's just like, okay, you naturally evolve it, and maybe just like Richard said before, I mean, it's very possible. I hope actually, like in 10 years, have a totally different style. I mean, I hope so, really.
Yeah, just do it. Just get it. Get it. Scott, you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I would say this is probably the number one question we all probably get is always, how did you find your style? Or how can I get my own style? And it's like, we're not just handing them out. So people expect to wake up the next day and just have this miraculous style. It's like, no, it's years of experimentations. Like you go down route, like I was using charcoal in my work when I graduated. I wouldn't touch it now, but I was using it and my work went down a different direction. Then I came back and then they went down another way. And you just have to experiment and try acrylics, try oils, try watercolor, literally anything. And a lot of style is, people don't like admitting this, but a lot of style is about stealing stuff you like from other people. Like I love the impressionist way of painting, like the applied brush strokes and stuff. So I use that in how I do my skin tones. So, you know, I probably wouldn't think of that if I just sat here on my own and painted, but it's go into a gallery and seeing that work. You know, I see, no, I love that, like, let me apply it to my own work.
Yeah.
But a lot of people also only look at fellow fashion illustrators for inspiration, and you're only ever going to kind of be a knockoff of someone. I mean, I did it when I very first started. I knocked off someone else's style. I made the mistake of getting paid work doing it, and yeah, it's not good. But now when I see people copy my style, I'm like, I can't moan at you because I did the same. But I think you have to just look at everything and look at, you know, painters, you can look at architecture, literally anything. And just, you know, see what you like and apply that to fashion illustration. And then you will have your own niche. So don't just look at, you know, don't just look at the Richards here and look at paper fashion and look at Jess Durant and stuff like that, you know, and David Downton. Like, look elsewhere and you will come up with a style that's completely your own. Yeah. That's my TED talk for today.
Definitely. I think that has a lot of merit to, you know, branch out your mind and, you know, go to museums. And I think in art school we did study the masters, but the masters like Sargent, Rembrandt, that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting, especially now in our days where social media, it's so everything's like in your face. I do find it that younger generations have a hard time wading through everything that they're bombarded with. It's just too much, isn't it? Sometimes we just need a break. Break to find themselves.
I think just to evolve on what Scott was saying, I guess it's just being inspired. You know, nothing is truly new. We all get inspired by certain things. We want to try those ideas for ourselves. And I think it's just knowing the difference between outright plagiarizing as well as just kind of being inspired and cherry picking various inspirations that kind of mold into something new over time. It doesn't come quickly. And I can put a timeline together on, as you pointed out, my change of style over the last few years. It didn't just happen in a month or two. It started with just going back to outlines, and then it started going to silhouettes, and then it started going to having a character style. I knew that because I know how to draw the body from inside out now, which I could never do years ago when I was using photography, that I can construct something. And it's just, yeah, it just forms naturally that way over time, as long as you keep looking. And I realized the stuff I'm doing now, there's some kind of inspiration from stuff I was looking at back when I was 17, 18, and I can see that coming through in some way. And that's everyone's personal style. It's an amalgamation of all your influences. It's just when you pick one single influence and copy them, then that's not cool. Yeah.
It's like a collection of all your taste. And just
it's every creative does that.
Oh,
I mean,
I love it.
think actually it's what Richard and Patrick had said is really, it's so important. I mean, I find like the older I get, the more kind of just insatiable I am about information. And just, I mean, I keep like, I'll find like a new artist from, like right now I look at Kees Van Dongen's work and it's like, that's unbelievable. Like just the quality of it and the portraiture and just like as an illustration. I mean, yeah, there's so much to see and you know, kind of absorb. And I don't know, I always want to see new things because it's just so inspiring.
Yeah. And I think that's our fuel, right? Fuel as an artist. Keep going. Totally. Don't stay with the same thing. Don't do the same things all the time. On to our next artist. Martina, are you here? Martina, I saw her come in. Martina? Okay, probably not. Maybe it's somebody else. But I thought it was quite interesting in terms of technique and just it has a painterly feel, very illustrative. I also like the writing on the side, but what do you guys think, the panelists? Very different from the one before.
I'm just absorbing it. I just need to look at it.
Take your time.
Yeah, I think I do like the big brush strokes. I think that's what struck me the most. Like in the red one, the background, and the black strokes. Brush strokes are really beautiful. And I don't know if it's like something she looked for, but like the green one looks like floating to me. I don't know. And I like that. I mean, like it doesn't really look like a runway pose, let's say. So for me, it's like floating, and I like it actually.
Yeah, a bit editorial.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I love that writing. Like my handwriting's crap, so I'm like looking at this and I'm like, it's so beautiful. The one on the right to me is really successful. I would just say that the brush strokes on the skirt, I think some of them are really great, and then some of them come across a little bit clumpy. So I think maybe a little bit more shape to get the kind of texture, or to get the shadow of the dress or skirt would really like take this from, you know, a 9 to a 10. And the other thing is maybe a thicker paper or paint it on like a canvas board or something, because I see the paper's buckling a bit. So
I think it looks like acrylic to me.
Yeah, sure. I think just maybe it's just because it's not scanned right or something, but just to kind of pull it on a stronger, if you had a high GSM paper or something, just to kind of, or even what is it when you put the masking tape around the page and, you know, stretch it out a bit or something, you know, just so it kind of stays straight. But yeah, I love it. This came up on my timeline today, and I really love that that second one. So yeah.
Just to offer a little bit of I guess contrast to Scott. I mean, I kind of like the ripples. I veer from it's kind of like knowing what the purpose of the drawing is for. I think there's certain styles that I always think are really beautiful and lovely, but in a commercial sense, I can see the clients and brands and everything, they want everything a bit more tidied up and maybe slicker. Whereas I'm just the grubbier, and you know, it's that kind of, I know people probably wouldn't think it from all the stuff I was doing years ago with all photorealism and whatnot. And I would spend the same kind of smoothing out the paper and a healing brush on everything. I totally get what Scott's saying, but I kind of see both viewpoints. I kind of like seeing something's a bit more crumbly and it's not so, you know, risk of looking a bit flat, if anything, with the kind of a flat tone. I can take it either way, is what I'm trying to say. And I do really like the simplicity of them. If I have one comment, I'm not sold on the faces quite as much as the rest of it. I think it's a tricky one. It depends on the scale maybe, but I do like the simplicity of all the marks and the way she's captured that drape in the skirt with these kind of big, thick dots. I think is really kind of quite beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think I prefer the one on the right with the maroon background. I mean, I use one kind of paper and I use acrylic, and the paper always ripples, and I usually wind up putting books on top of the scanner because some clients, it drives them crazy. But yeah, I kind of go with Richard. That doesn't bother me. I think the green dress, I almost get a sense that, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like a very 1920s German Max Ernst, but I get the sense that the artist isn't quite sure what's happening with the body under the dress. And I think the figure on the right, there's a real sense of that there's a body under that dress. I think that the black strokes are actually very confident. I mean, I think it takes a lot of assuredness to put those marks down, and so I give her a lot of credit for doing that. I think that she needs to kind of get a sense of what's happening under that green dress and where those black, like, are those black marks really there for a reason, or it doesn't feel really resolved to me.
That's interesting. How important would you stress for other artists, aspiring fashion illustrators, to learn the body? I mean, for me, it's essential to know, anatomy, all the structure, because, Pablo Picasso said, you need to know the rules to break the rules. And I think that's one of my ethos of life is get to know the rules so you can break them eventually. What did you guys think about that?
I'll use two other contemporary illustrators as an example of, I agree with you. I agree that I personally, especially for fashion students, design students, absolutely knowing the body, knowing drape, If I think of, if you know Helen Bullock and John Booth, for example, I remember in an interview, Helen Bullock was told all throughout studying she can't draw the figure, I'm quoting her from an interview, I can't remember which interview, and hope she doesn't kill me for bringing it up. But I think it's a really fascinating point. She's done very well as an illustrator. She's very much an abstract illustrator in terms of her reportage of fashion looks. And John, likewise, they had quite similar tuition, and you can see similarities. And John's such a brilliant artist, and he's multifaceted. He's not just a fashion illustrator. I definitely wouldn't put that title with him because he does ceramics and all this as well. It almost took me a while to come around to his stuff, but I do really love it. It's beautiful, and I think it's really effective. And he definitely has fashion illustrator within his range of titles or abilities. And I don't think it's just a different approach. I probably sound like I'm sat on the fence with every single subject, but it works for some people, it doesn't work for some others. I agree with the rule breaking, but sometimes I get caught up in focusing on the rules too much. I was teaching how to work out the body from inside out today and drawing the clothing on top of it and all this other stuff. And then I sit back and think, oh, it's getting really stiff now because I'm thinking too much. I need to go back and just do a few doodles to, get out of that kind of perfectionist streak that rears its head. So I'm shutting up now.
I think you and me are very similar because I have that where I can get perfectionist, and then I need life drawing to take me out of that. And then I just do quick ones, and then I feel like that balances me out quite well. So did anybody else have feedback on that for our artists listening?
I would say it is crucial, but like Richard said, some styles you don't need it. But I would say that there's a big thing of those single line illustrations going around at the moment. And they're focusing on the body. And I think you can definitely tell who has, no matter how simple your work is, you can definitely tell who's got the education or the you know, they've got experience in drawing the body, and those who haven't, because there's little nuances in the body that you want to get when you're doing a line, like, you know, the little bit of the wrist or the bit of the shoulder, which just elevates your drawing so much and gives it more depth. But I always love that quote by Quentin Blake, which is, I kept doing life drawing. He did life drawing so much when he was younger that he never needed a body to reference in his mind because he knew it so much, like he knew everything off by heart. And so that's always my goal, because I don't use reference that often, and I try and just work it out in my mind. That's probably why people might look at my work and think it's fucked. But I just try and kind of, I just want to learn the body so much that I don't need to rely on something, because I don't always want to have to collage my work like a pose from Pinterest and you know, a screenshot from Vogue to pull it together. But I don't think any time doing life drawing is spent wasted. So I think anyone should do it all the time.
That's so true.
I always tell students, you're going to hate about 90% of what you do. If you come away with one good drawing, then it's a success, because you just need something to go forward and stick with it.
Oh, that's good advice. Richard or Francesco, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, I do agree. Like, I think it depends on the work, of course, what you do. But for me, like, it's, yeah, anatomy, it's a great foundation you should have. And personally, back in Italy, I attended the fine arts. It was 4 years of anatomy. So I don't know how it works elsewhere, but I think it was definitely worth it, honestly. Like, I really spent the first year drawing from life figure every day for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then I kept on with kind of exercise, always anatomy related for 3 years. And I feel like, yeah, it really stayed with me till today.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I because I'm teaching now, and I can always, I see a pattern. This is my second semester of, like, the students will present their work and everyone has an oval, but there are no features. And I finally realized, like, oh, they didn't have to draw faces, or, you know, the hands just become these kind of
Trees.
blocks. Yeah. And it's like, all right, so you guys are busted. No one here, you know, we're just gonna, like, back up and talk about hand. Tomorrow is just faces. It's like, I can't have you leave this class without having, you know, you can do whatever you want to with the face by the time you leave here, but you have to at least know where things go. Also, I just want to say, because I worked in design for many years, I really started to understand the body when I worked with pattern makers as a designer, because they know where the pocket goes, they know where the shoulder is, they know, I mean, they're really, you know, it's all body. And it was so amazing. I didn't realize until later how working with them was just informed so much about where's that pocket really go. And that's kind of, I think, what I mean, at least for my work, people look to see, oh, there's a pocket there, so I don't need any other information, but I have a sense of kind of what's happening with this. So, like, a little piece of information can inform a lot, but you kind of need to know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Now I'll stop.
Implement that into the drawing as well later on. Oh, I love it. Oh, thank you. So we've almost running out of time, but because this is Connie's crit, I always ask, and we have esteemed panelists together to ask to critique my work, and share my screen, any feedback or input. So I'm doing this thing of, I have a 2021 sketchbook, and I have drawings that I hate or I don't feel too good about. And I decided to just paint over it, and I'm using acrylic for the first time since I was in university. So it's kind of adding another dimension to the work, but still kind of upcycling in a way, I feel, because during teaching, I feel like people are wasting too many papers, because, you know, when you have some drawing you don't like, you just don't want to look at it and you want to throw it away. But I feel like when you look at it head on, you have to confront it and, like, deal with it, basically. And I thought, why not just draw something on top, but use it as a backdrop. So we'd love to get your feedback on it. Anything.
Awful. Joking. I was going to say that.
Like, I know
That's
where you
awful. No, I think you're of course we're only going to say good things here. I think the paint is so lovely. All this kind of it has this kind of ephemeral quality, and that's what I like about paint is that all the streaks and smears, and it's not a medium that you want to be precise about. It's who's the artist, and he's in David Downton's book on in the Illustrators, and he was the portrait artist, but it was he would make it a lot more streaky. They kind of were quite representational, but then it was
Is it Baudelaire or something? It begins with a B, Baudelaire or something. I got the book literally there. I might have to look. But...
Oh, my mind's gone blank. But no, I mean, they were kind of these refined women in kind of ball-gown dresses and stuff, but
Wow.
I swear it begins with a B. It's like Botticelli or something. I'm butchering the name for you, but it's definitely a B.
Anyway, it's my point was that it's nice to see all these extra qualities around the figure, and I think for me, one thing that I really tried to get out of was one thing that I knew I was doing for years was like, how do I make this something other than just the figure from the runway? What is my stamp? What's my version? I think this is definitely something to keep going with. I think it's really quite interesting.
Yeah. I love the your background, and I think it's amazing to it takes the preciousness out of old drawings to just paint over them. And I think the use of acrylic is really, really successful. I would almost love to see part of the figure not without a print and really incorporate it into the background.
Yeah.
Because your backgrounds are so free and beautiful, and I'd love to just see kind of really just gesture of a print, and she's really melding into those beautiful backgrounds.
That's so interesting point. I love that. And try it. Thanks.
Do we actually have any more of Caroline's? Because we only had one of Caroline. Are you still there, Caroline?
Caroline? Maybe she
I'm just
left.
aware that we saw a few of the other.
No, I'm here. It's just my children were fighting in the background, so I had to deal with that. But yeah, I'm here.
You were saying, Richard?
I was saying, was it just the one that we had from Caroline for this one? I was just curious.
We had that one.
See, I saw that one come up on the screen. I thought this is so lovely, and I love this one. I love the birds. I love the marks. I love that one.
Yeah.
Connie, I've got the process for that. If anybody's interested, because that was the quickest one, I think. About 2 minutes.
I think another thing we were talking about is the speed of the illustration. So a running theme throughout the whole crit was how can we compete with photography? If you go to the shows, it's a line of cameras and then maybe 1 or 2 illustrators on the side or in the back. It's a thing that me and Patrick were talking about is how can we make fashion illustration more of the forefront where we get the front row seats and we're drawing, because there's so many things we can capture that the photo just kind of makes it a bit soulless, or it's more of a document than expression. So if you guys had any thoughts on that.
I love drawing runway and I llove drawing live. And I kind of make it a challenge for myself to get as much information when the model walks by. And I used to make a real challenge of posting it as quickly as possible. And I don't, just to get it out there. I think to kind of keep comparing ourselves to photography is almost apologetic, and just they're just doing their photo thing and we're doing our drawing thing. And I think, drawing to me just engages with the viewer in such a different way. I think the idea of drawing at a runway show is just one of the best things in the world. So, and it's not about perfection, it's about just capturing this moment. And so I think if anyone wants to try it, and I always tell students, crash a show, take a sketchbook, stand outside, just, just capture those moments, because a few lines, you can really tell a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, a quick question from Patrick. Should fashion design inform fashion illustration more?
Design in terms of design drawing, or I'm not quite sure what that means.
Should
Yeah.
fashion design inform fashion illustration more?
Hi, I'm here. Just a quick thought is how are illustrators becoming decorative and not understanding how fashion designers actually design. So as Richard was saying, understanding where pockets are. So if you go into a fashion school, you'll see how they really want the designers and the illustrators to understand the garment and understand construction. And our illustrators losing a bit of that. And like Richard going to the shows, we noticed that not enough students are knocking down the doors anymore to the shows. And we think that's a bit of a shame. Where fashion designers are there or stylists are at shows, the illustrators don't seem to be present enough. So I guess that's two questions. One is, why aren't the illustrators present enough? And secondly, or do they feel that they don't have a place there? And the other one is, should they understand fashion design construction more to maybe inform their fashion illustrations to give them more of a role within the actual fashion system?
I'll just quickly, for me, my process is, those are my choices. I wouldn't say, I love Richard's point about Helen's work and John Booth's work. I would never say to someone else, I think, I think people have to have an understanding of the body, but I would never say, that someone else's work is less interesting or valid because they're doing it differently. I think it's also important to have a lot of different points of view.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the question is very much in the context of students and studying rather than just people who are out there earning a living, because different illustrators have different outlets and not all of them are required to have that information. I think illustrators at shows, from a PR point of view, there aren't as many high profile illustrators, not necessarily something I agree with, but they're thinking in terms of exposure, they're thinking in terms of money, revenue, and exposure, and they're not necessarily thinking about the artistic images that come from the likes of illustrators and a few others. It's a shame. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't believe in the photography versus illustration argument. I think they're different things for different reasons. I don't like putting them against each other, but yeah, I'm all for more illustrators at shows, of course, but it is hard. I can see it from a PR point of view. They don't see the benefit. It's like, a fashion model's agency won't use illustrations of the model in their portfolio because the clients aren't going to have any benefit in that. There's just certain outlets.
Yeah, definitely.
This
Anyone
makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I used to do a lot of fashion shows, like Sketch Day and stuff. But obviously, COVID, and I haven't left the house. But I think that people just don't know it's an option as well. A lot of people I speak to, because I do my masterclass for telling people to get their work out there. And a lot of people don't realize it's an option. They don't realize you can email PR agencies. They don't realize that on London Fashion Week, there's literally a list of the PR agencies. But yeah, if you've got 100 seats and would you rather give one to a buyer or would you rather give one to an illustrator who's got 200 followers? It's probably going to go to the buyer. So the only way to guarantee that, unfortunately, is that influencer role where you have a higher amount of following, because then they'll see, oh, we get coverage from it. So 10,000 people might see this runway show. And it's a horrible rat race to get into, but it's a necessary one if you want to do it at the moment. But yeah, just email people. The worst thing they can do is say no. Like, you can slip in backstage and just, sketch or something. So I think people just need to know it's an option. And a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
When I started doing it, it was much easier to just get access. It was, I don't know, like 15 years ago, and the world is completely different now. And it's going to be different again post-COVID. But I would just show up only because it just like fed me. Like it was just, I couldn't get enough of it.
Interesting. You can also draw people around the show, people who dress
That's what I
up.
did. I would just, I would just start drawing people outside because I couldn't even get in. So
I love
was
that.
enough for me.
I love that passion. So our time is up, and I want to say thank you to everybody that showed up, our esteemed panelists, guests, and also the artists that we showed. Flaminia, you're here now, but I'm sorry we missed you. It was really lovely to see, and we're so happy about all the people that participated. And I feel like we kind of built this momentum about the conversation and dialogue around fashion drawing. So thank you all so much for being here. And thanks, Patrick, wherever you are.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Connie. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Great. It's great having this.
Yeah, we're having another one on March 3rd. We're having 2 talks on Molly Goddard and Maddie Bavon. So if you all want to join, head to Fida's account for all the information. Yeah, so hopefully see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Bye.
Everyone.